Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Rangers lose to the Washington Capitals 7-4 in a Saturday matinee game in DC. Rangers had a chance to maybe build off of the last win against the Bruins. They're unable to do so. And special teams really failed them in this one, going 0 for 4 on the power play and as well giving up a couple of goals on the other side. Penalty kill didn't exactly get the job done in this game, and Rangers came out playing well. I mean, first period was definitely probably advantage Rangers, but doesn't really matter. And they come out of the first period tied at 1. You kind of needed to be leading after the first. Not that it would have maybe made the difference in the game, but we've seen when the Rangers have held leads after the first period, you know, the results have been pretty good. They were unable to do so. And in the second period, Washington was the better team. And in some ways, that second period really was kind of the difference. Rangers tried to come back, had a couple of instances, really in the second and third period where they cut the lead to 1, where Washington had a 2-goal lead. Rangers cut it to 1 on 3 different occasions, but the Capitals would respond quickly each time. Rangers make it 3-2. Caps less than 2 minutes after that make it 4-2. Rangers make it 4-3. Caps a little more than 2 minutes after that make it 5-3. Rangers make it 5-4. Less than a minute after, the Caps make it 6-4. So those responses, and that's what the Rangers were good at last year, where a team would score and then the Rangers would quickly, right away, kind of suffocate any of the momentum that the other team could have had. And now it feels like it's the opposite, where Rangers just can't get on track. So now that's 20 regulation losses, 17-20-1 is the Ranger record. And what's interesting about that is they didn't hit their 20th regulation loss in the last 3 years. It didn't really come until on average around the 60-game mark. We are shy of the 40-game mark. So about 30 games less, and they already have 20 regulation losses. That's a lot. And that's a thing where, maybe this Ranger playoff picture could have looked different if they were a team that was capable of keeping games somewhat close and finding their way to get games to overtime. That just doesn't happen with this team. Not at all. And so now they are 5-16 the last 21 games. That is, that's a way to basically put you deep down in the standings, and it's tough to come out from that. It really is. So again, they were 12-4-1 through 17 games. And since then, 5-16 in the next 21. And I don't know, they play tomorrow against the Blackhawks. They already lost to Chicago at home. It's a winnable game. I think that Louis Domingue will probably be a net for the Rangers, and who knows what that could lead to. Jonathan Quick, not a great game for him, allowing 6 goals. And he was going for his 400th NHL win, unsuccessful in this try. He'll get it soon. But, not today. But if you lose that Chicago game, then to me, there's a very decent chance with what's coming up after that you could be looking at an extended losing streak. So they have not won 2 in a row since mid-ish November, right before the streak began. So that continues. So while there were some positives today, the negatives outweigh them. The lineup was the same as it happened last game, meaning that Zach Jones and Johnny Brodzinski were healthy scratches. I do wonder, with a back-to-back set, and this will be an interesting test, more so on the Jones front. I think that there's a chance that he could play, but also the thing is, I don't know how they consider certain players. We know that for better or worse, more for worse, Lindgren and Miller are untouchable as far as being a healthy scratch. That's how it is. And so then your options are kind of limited at that point. To me, Vakanainen would be the most likely one to be sat. And, in this game, he made a nice pass to Hedl on a goal. Vakanainen wasn't really that bad in this game. So, he doesn't deserve to be the one that sits. Really, it should honestly be Lindgren, or if it's my opinion, it should be Lindgren or Miller. So that's one to look at just because it's a back-to-back with a pretty quick turnaround. And we've seen in other situations where Laviolette made the excuse when it was convenient to say, to have a fresh set of legs. So, let's see what happens. It would be kind of interesting would be, I don't think that they would do this, but like, could they go 11 forward, 7 defense and say, hey, we're going to scratch like VZ and we want to get Jones in lineup? I don't think that really accomplishes much, but we'll see. On the forward front, again, VZ's kind of that 12th forward right now, so it would be him that would be the odd guy out if they want to go to Brodzinski. But again, those things are kind of, irrelevant at this point. Um, let's discuss some of the players and things like that and how they did, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of this game, which actually was entertaining. Which we can't say about all Range games, but this one, not a whole lot of defense on the Rangers' part. Not as if the Capitals were swarming them. It wasn't like that. The Rangers had some pretty good offensive zone time, but the Washington chants they did have were really high quality. And Jonathan Quick wasn't at his A game. And so you combine those things, and that's what happens. Jonathan Quick gives up 6 goals on 27 shots. So not a very good game for him after he really was unbelievable the other night against Boston. So, he'll, like I said, if Igor is out, that is a problem. Even though Shesterkin has not been great lately and Quick, he has been more good than bad. Like, obviously, there's no explanation needed there. Obviously, as long as Igor is out, that's going to hurt this team. So, on defense, I kind of touched on a little bit, but Lindgren Fox pair wasn't good. I just think that, with Lindgren, he's just not adding a whole lot there. And I really got to think that if this continues, the Rangers lose games, you got to think he's going to be traded at the deadline. It just makes too much sense. And yeah, I just think that he's relied upon way too much. He is someone that's in that top 4. Arguably he's on the top pair, but the minutes don't, I think that's misleading to use it that way because the minutes don't necessarily suggest that, but let's put it at top 4 for sure. And I think that, it's too much. I think Ryan Lindgren, if utilized correctly, it's really someone who is more of a third pairing defenseman, honestly. And Adam Fox, I just think, like, we'll talk about one of the goals where it's like you just, I think it was the Mangiapane, the third goal by the Caps, where he just kind of gets behind him and not good enough. I think Adam Fox, this has not been a very good season for him. He's capable of way more. Keandre Miller, he did a really poor job, especially on goal 5, the Ovechkin goal. But then on the 6th goal as well, not really being strong enough in front of the net. And that was another big goal. I think that might have been Protus. I could be wrong on that one. There were so many goals. It's hard to, we'll get there. But Miller, I just don't like what I see. And he is not someone I really want to commit to long term. If you want to kind of take it like a couple years at a time, I'm fine with that. But he is not someone I want to commit to and take a chance on a 5-year, 6-year type deal. I think there was a time when that was possible, not now. And so I understand if you don't necessarily want to trade him, I would not be opposed to that because I think that his perceived value is still high, and it might be the time to do it. But certainly, I don't want him being given a long-term deal. So, and then the rest of it is like, again, this defense is in flux to me because Borgen's another guy that I think is definitely trade worthy at the deadline. And Vakanainen, like, you don't feel as if he's going to have a big time future here. He could, but I wouldn't really think he does. So again, like, I don't know what's going to happen with this. It's in transition. Like, we know they traded Trouba. Zach Jones, I don't think has much of a future here. So that is where Drury's really going to have to get to work. And I don't know what the answers are because there isn't a whole lot in the system to help them defensively. For the forwards, I want to start out with saying, the Trocheck line has just not been good enough at all. And I think that they're kind of flying under the radar. Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere has been so much worse than last year. Panarin's basically been invisible the last couple of games. And I guess out of all of them, based on the whole season, Panarin would be the one that I would criticize him the least. He really, at times, was trying to put the team on his back. But just calling a spade, he has not really been very good lately. Vincent Trocheck, I like his style of play. I like his tenacity. I think he's comes from a different mold from the rest of this Ranger core. So I like that. But hey, like he hasn't really been good enough. He's been all right, but nowhere near the player we saw last year. And then Lafreniere, very disappointing. Very, very disappointing where there was a play where a short-handed chance by Washington in the first period, Lafreniere just gives up on the play. Didn't stay with the guy, and then he almost got another opportunity because he kind of left the zone. So Lafreniere, the work ethic does not seem like it is where it needs to be. At the end of the game, on a 6-on-4 situation, they had Zibanejad out there, right? And so Mika actually has been looking okay the last few games, to be fair to him. And actually in this game too, I thought looked pretty good. But it's Philip Hedl that I think gets the short end of the stick. It could have been like Hedl should have been on instead of probably Lafreniere or Zibanejad. So that's just the disappointing thing is that Hedl, and look, it's not as if he didn't fuck up a little bit as well. I thought the second goal by the Caps, which was a deflection, I believe by Lars Eller, Hedl wasn't great on that one, so it's not as if he's the perfect player, but he scored a goal. He had some zip looking, like he was a threat out there. I just think that some players are getting the short end of the stick, Hedl included, as a big one that deserves more of an opportunity. And I just think the Lingrens of the world, the Millers, we've already discussed some of the forwards that just get a little bit too much ice time. And I think there's others that are a little bit more deserving. And at least with the Hedl line, you're getting offensive chances. And they had a goal taken off the board on a situation we'll talk about where there was an offside that was called. Probably correctly called, but way after the fact. Like, the system needs to be changed. And again, we'll discuss that. But let's get into it. And this game did have a lot going on, and I thought the Rangers got off to a good start. It was Logan Thompson was in net for the Caps, not Charlie Lindgren. So Ryan's brother was not in goal. They had Logan Thompson, who was okay. He wasn't great. Neither goaltenders really were in this game. But for the Caps, it's incredible to see. And look, Spencer Carber, I think, is a really good head coach. I was impressed by him last season. But to see the quick turnaround where we're looking at this now, but it really happened even sooner, like 5-6 months, more than that, I guess, 6 to 8 months after the Rangers swept the Capitals last year. And look, a sweep is, I still think that a sweep was a little misleading. The Rangers were in control the whole time. It probably should have been a deeper series than just 4. Still, the Rangers were clearly the superior team in all facets. Ovechkin looked like he was kind of cooked in that series, at least. And now, fast forward, and the Caps are, number 1 in the Eastern Conference. The Rangers are, not likely to make the playoffs. It's crazy, the turnaround between these two teams, and not a good thing for the Rangers because the Caps, it's as if they didn't even really rebuild. Whereas the Penguins, for example, you can see that's going to be I'm not sure, they could have some tough years out of them. The Caps, who had almost just as much success in terms of postseason appearances, they're looking really good. So Rangers really get off to a good start. With it being a noon start really early, you don't know what you're getting from either team, but the Rangers were the ones that definitely came out with more energy. And they get on the board first. At 7 minutes in, it's Chris Kreider scoring his 13th goal unassisted. What happens is Will Borgen flips the puck into the Washington zone, and Logan Thompson, not a great decision in terms of where he was trying to pass it to, which was the middle of the ice, and he fans on it. Goes right on Kreider's stick, and from a little bit out, but with an open net, he buries it. Makes it 1-0 Rangers. So that's 2 games in a row where goaltender miscues, but Swayman messed up in the Boston game, which led to the Zibanejad goal. Same thing kind of happens here. This one more directly, and it makes it 1-0 Rangers. Then you get some penalties. Borgen holds Dubois at 8:35. He lost the stick and then held him. That is killed off by the Rangers. Then at 13:06, Ovechkin slashes Zibanejad. Rangers don't score. But then Berard holds Mangiapane at 18:06. And this one ends up being a capital goal. So it all kind of starts out where It's a shot taken by the Caps that is by, I believe, Chikrin, that Quick is unable to hold on to, and then it leads to a scramble. And eventually, Chikrin takes another shot, and it's put in front by Dylan Strome. His 12th goal of the season from Chikrin and Wilson in 1846. Quick was upset, felt like there was goaltender interference. I thought it was clean. Puck was loose. Ovechkin was in the mix, as was Trocheck. I think Lindgren, again, like, blame goes all around there because the Rangers were kind of hemmed in. That was the problem. Trocheck, Smith, Lindgren, and Fox were not in a great position, and the Caps were, going closer and closer to Quick, and they just kind of had the numbers and the bodies in front, and that makes it 1-1. So a tough way to end the period, considering the fact that I thought the Rangers were the better team. So the second period, Washington kind of takes over, and it was there. The first half of the period was really all Caps, and that was in a lot of ways the difference in the game, as well as the special teams. So at 2:29, it would be Lars Eller's 7th goal of the season from Faravari and Van Riemsdyk. So this is one where Capitals, with a good amount of a good zone entry with space, they move the puck around. Van Riemsdyk back to Faravari, point to point, and Faravari takes a shot, and it's tipped in by Eller in front. And this is where Hedel was a little bit late to get there. Positioning was off, should have been closer, and it makes it 2-1. Then at 10:08, Andrew Mangiapane scores his 9th goal of the season from Dowd and Sandin. So this one was a play where there's a cycle. Mangiapane moves it around to Sandin, to Dowd, with a good pass to Mangiapane, and Fox was the one that was trailing him and just really doesn't do a good job. Just there's a lack of Adam Fox's game is not one of, physicality or I don't know if intensity is the right word, but he just there was a little bit of lackadaisical attitude right there in that play by Fox. You just can't have it. And it was too easy. And a lot of these Capitals goals to me were all too easy. The Rangers were not doing what they needed to do to clear the crease, to take players out of good position for Washington. So that made it 3-1 right there. And then soon thereafter is where you have the goal that we thought was a goal that then was not. So it was a play where it ended up being a Will Cooley goal assisted by Hedel. It ends up being ruled that Brett Berard was offside. Now, here's the problem I have with this. And it was very smart by Carberry. He calls a timeout. And to me, if you call a timeout, you should then not be allowed to gain that extra 30 seconds to challenge a play. I think that they should probably change that. Again, like Carberry, that is absolutely the right thing that he did. That's the rules. If the Rangers were in that situation, you'd hope Laviolette would do the same thing. And also the problem, too, was it took a long time for this to be overturned. It took a lot of replays. It wasn't that conclusive. So it's kind of twofold where, like, I did think that the call would stand. And if it did, then it's 3-2, and the Rangers have a power play after a failed challenge. So a big swing right there that goes the Caps' way keeps the score at 3-1. However, after a failed power play by the Rangers at 13:23, Duhaime cross-checks Borgen. So, Rangers power play doesn't score. And again, that's been a problem. And I'll just say it now. By the end, they had Zibanejad out there instead of Lafreniere, which I don't have a huge problem with in terms of, hey, Zibanejad was having a better game than Lafreniere. If the tables were turned, would they have done that like in the past? No, they wouldn't have. And my bigger issue is I wish that Hedel would get more of a look there. But anyway, Rangers don't score, but they do soon thereafter. A bad turnover by Alex Ovechkin in the Capital zone leads to a Sam Carrick goal, the second goal of the season, assisted by Edstrom. So I guess Edstrom must have gotten a piece of it to force the Ovechkin turnover. This is Sam Carrick's first goal since opening night against Pittsburgh, which was a while ago, but really feels like a long time ago when you consider the Rangers, won that game handily, and you're thinking, okay, this is just a carryover from last year's team. Not so much so. The Carrick gets that goal to make it 3-2, and then a really bad penalty by Ryan Lindgren, who had been just coming back. He had been high stick. It was a missed call by the refs where Lindgren was clearly high sticked. should have been a penalty, wasn't. Lindgren comes back, and it's a delay of game at 16:39. So the Rangers looking to maybe make something happen down one. Washington's on the power play, and it's a goal by Connor McMichael. His 17th goal of the season from Strome and Mangiapane at 18:13. And just way too much room. And you know what? It was actually a good kill by the Rangers. They had a lot of chances. They were looking good. And then Strome just finds McMichael just open, where you have Vakanainen, Schneider, Carrick, and Kreider just around him with McMichael right in the middle there. And it kind of leaks through quick. Again, it was not, there weren't that many goals that the goals itself were like, oh my God, like that's a terrible goal by Jonathan Quick, but just things, little things like, and I've talked about this with Igor too, where rebound control wasn't great and it led to bad things happening later on. That goal probably was one of his lesser goals allowed, even though McMichael had all the room in the world, it kind of went through quick. So that makes it 4-2, end of 2. And, the Rangers, they didn't quit. I mean, that's not the bar that should be set, but we've seen it at other times. But the Rangers, they were in this game. And they kept on trying to come back. At the 22nd mark, Nick Dowd slashes Sam Carrick. Big chance of the power play to come through to start the third. They don't. Then at 4 minutes, Will Cooley high sticks Carlson. Rangers kill it off, and then as well, Dubois, by the end of it, trips Adam Fox at 5:44. Eventually, all the man advantage time is off. And at 8:32, Philip Hedl scores his 8th goal of the season from Vakanainen and Schneider. And, come to think of it, this might be Vakanainen's, it's either his first or second, might be his first point as a Ranger. But it was a nice pass by Vakanainen to set Hedl free on a breakaway. And Hedl, who gets breakaway opportunities, but a lot of the times doesn't convert, he does on this one. Nice move. Goes top shelf against Thompson to make it 4-3. Well-deserved, as Hedl, again, he did have some opportunities. He deserved that assist on that Cooley goal that was eventually called off. Makes it 4-3. Then at 10:50, Ovechkin scores his 19th goal of the season from Strome. And the problem with this was Keandre Miller. A face-off won almost too cleanly by Trocheck. Miller is unable to handle that puck. Ovechkin gets it on his backhand and scores past Quick. So Miller needs to be able to, at the very least, just make it difficult on Ovechkin. He just flat out loses the puck. Miller is a turnover machine. He is. And that makes it 5-3. However, the Rangers cut it back to 1. And it's Zibanejad scoring his 8th goal of the season from Riley Smith. So Mika with goals in back-to-back games. Good to see. And both being even strength goals. So Zibanejad has looked better since the break. And it was a nice saucer pass by Riley Smith. And Zibanejad is able to finish the deal. Makes it 5-4. However, less than a minute after that, Alexei Protas scores a 17th goal of the season from Dubois and Chychrun at the 14-minute mark, and it makes it 6-4. And this was one where the Rangers make a line change, and it kind of hurts them. They've done this. And it's a shot by Dubois that goes off of the post. Keandre Miller is unable to put it, into Quick's pads, or at least get it out of there. Bad job by Miller. And Protas is able to easily sweep it in. And that makes it 6-4. And, the Rangers pull the goalie, and a lot of zone time, but not a lot of good chances. And Tom Wilson eventually gets an internet goal. His 16th goal of the year from Ovechkin and Faravari at 19:22. Final score 7-4 Capitals. So, Rangers, this win here, I think, could have made things maybe a little bit interesting, right? Heading into a game with Chicago, maybe you then go on a little bit of a streak. It doesn't happen, and now I feel as if you lose to the Blackhawks, you're going to be going on another long losing spell. So, expect to see Domingue in net for the Rangers. One would think. And it's interesting because I didn't realize it. Domingue's numbers in Hartford weren't good. And Garand, his numbers are good. And I think that maybe the thought there is they just want him getting that starter's workload, and he's a young goalie, and the backup role is more suited for Domingue, I guess. But expect him in net. And I'm also curious to see, specifically, not so much with Brodzinski, but with Jones, does he find his way into the lineup? That to me will be telling as far as any potential future that he has with this team. If he's not a very good sign for Zach Jones. But again, special teams fails the Rangers, 0-4 on the power play, give up a couple of goals as well, shorthanded. And Capitals, they continue to do what they do. They're atop the division, atop the conference, and the Rangers continue to meander outside of the playoff line. And we'll see what they can do in another afternoon affair tomorrow against the Chicago Blackhawks.